Welcome to Champagne Sunday. I'm Lauren.
Hey, I'm Bonnie.
I'm Beth.
And we're going to talk about life
After divorce.
And living
The best life.
and the life you love.
Yes, living the life you love on that other side.
Cheers.
Cheers. Welcome.
Okay, this week we're asking, what do we do when we're powerless? AKA when hits the fan.
Woohoo! Because in
It
our
did.
lives this week it did. We have all experienced some sort of feeling of powerlessness in a literal and figurative way this past week.
Exactly.
So first, let's apologize for
Timely.
not having an episode out this Sunday on time because
Last Sunday,
had a
giant
storm.
trees fell between my yard and Bonnie's yard.
and Beth had her own
And
brand of tree falling.
Beth had other trees fall in her yard, so it was literally
A
And
truly
we were
without
out
power
of power.
situation.
We had no power.
Yes, I didn't have power for 6 days.
I had power because it
Thank
uprooted my
goodness.
fence. It fell on Bonnie's house though, and then it fell on your house, right?
It fell on my house, and I went without power for a little bit. I had power to start with,
Mhm.
but then when the electrician came, he said it was a good thing my house didn't burn down because
Oh.
I had exposed wires wrapped all in that tree.
Oh.
And it ripped the tree limb, ripped my power box off my house, and it was laying in the yard. So it was fun times.
So Bonnie didn't have power and ended up. I just gave Bonnie my key and
That was
ended
so
up
nice.
just like saying use my house when you need it.
And
so.
I did.
And it was
great.
But it was nice to just be able to go, okay, what do we need to do? Or like,
Right.
if one of us wasn't here to meet the people to get quotes
Yes.
on fences and
Tree removal.
Tree
Right.
removal
Well,
and-
and for a little while there, I was afraid that I couldn't even be back in my studio because it hit in the studio area. I was afraid
It
of
cracked. It looked
Yeah.
like it was going to
Yeah.
crack in half.
Yeah,
Well,
it did.
It did.
Seriously.
And it may have. I will know when they can rip into the wall.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm not as afraid of it anymore.
But
Well,
it's been like
I did have that little panic about, of course, my finances are finally, coming together and I can breathe. And now this is going to set me back. When the tree man gave me his estimate, I was like, holy clink. I
Yeah.
just cannot deal with it today. So I had to just surrender that. I had to give up my control and power on that and just even
Yeah.
thinking about how much this is going to cost to
Yeah.
clean it up, just to get it.
Well, I think I just kind of my house was not touched, and I'm very lucky about that. But my fence was already a mess, but it's a wreck. And and Bonnie has been. You've had such a good outlook this week. Like you have major issues, and Bonnie, we've just laughed about
Bonnie
it.
was camping.
Oh, you can do
Camping
it.
in
Yeah,
the dark.
just camping.
Just
Camping.
camping. Yes. I mean,
So-
it does me absolutely no good. And I know I
Yeah.
wrote about this on Facebook. It does me no good to get upset.
Mm-mm.
It does me no good to throw a temper tantrum or panic over the money that I may have to shell out and come up with to get these things fixed, because that doesn't make it not have happened.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
those are things that are going to come
Yeah.
no matter what I do. And so to worry myself to death
Well-
today is just, it's not fun.
And it
Doesn't
was
feel
it was
good.
unfortunate, but like you said, like there was no one had any control over it. It was
No.
Well, and I had that too, and I keep trying to talk to myself because I'm like, nobody was hurt. I am very displaced with my dogs and my fence, and I was very inconvenienced. And then also when they put the power box back up and I got some power to my lower level, I couldn't have power to my upper level because now it was out of code.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get another electrical box. I'm like, every time somebody came to me, I was like, I know, it's something else. It's just something else. And it was. It was. So I was out of water for today, most of the
Yeah.
day. So just,
Oh, and if you can't hear it, we've got another storm.
Yeah.
But
And
lucky
looks
for
sad.
Lauren and I, we don't
have any
more
trees.
Woohoo!
They can't
I'm
do
worried about
anything.
mine. I'm worried about my
And
other
these houses have been standing for over 100 years. That's
Mhm.
I just
Yes.
continue to have faith in that.
That's
so.
true. That's true. They're well built.
Well, that's what I said. If anything, my roof might collapse, But my walls are pitch and lath, and like the wood is petrified. Like you can't do a nail in.
Yeah.
It will bend the nail. That's how hard the walls are. And my walls are really thick. And even in the heat of the summer, it's really cool in my house.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything landed on it, as soon as that got down to the pitch and lathe, it would stop. Although, I mean, you saw my outdoor furniture, it's pulverized.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like our fence.
Like the fence.
yeah.
Well,
And my fence is pulverized.
I have thought a lot about the fact that, like, and while my damage was not nearly as severe as y'all's was, I've thought about how lucky we are to have the community that we have, like, or that we can rely on, because it was quick. Like, it was, here's the problem, okay, let's get all the portable chargers we can find so that cell phones happen, or, like, let's, here's the key to my house. I was like, my parents are out of town. They said you can stay there if you need to. Like, it was very, like...
Well, and I did borrow their trash cans.
Yeah.
Mine were
well,
under a tree.
My neighbors are fabulous. I put that on Facebook. Not only did the tree fall down in my backyard, and you couldn't get back there. There was no access. The trees from the city in my front yard dropped so many limbs I couldn't get out of my driveway. I was literally boxed in by tree limbs. And so my neighbors came as soon as the storm let up, and they brought chainsaws and they cut it and moved most of it. And then, then like my brother gave me his tree guy, his fence guy. I just had people saying, "What do you need here?"
Oh,
here
yeah.
So it was nice.
Yeah.
And that's, we do live very close to each other. We have a very tight neighborhood, but we also have a very tight knit community. And people checked on me every day. I didn't even realize this. Yesterday when they started cutting the tree, 2 of my neighbors brought coolers for my tree guy. With drinks. Because they didn't know if I had power, if I had, ice or anything.
That's amazing.
Isn't that nice?
That's like really,
That's
really
sweet.
sweet. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was nice. So,
dang it, I didn't think to do that.
other than,
That's what I did. I brought them snacks and drinks. I didn't put them on coolers because they had coolers, but I brought mine snacks and drinks.
I think other than the fact that I had to surrender all control of the circumstance, I was powerless, but I also had to choose not to try to figure it out before, because that's how my mind works. I wanted to know step A, B, C, D. Yeah. How was this going to happen? Who did this? Well, it took forever for the insurance guy
or for the utility company to contact anybody. And it's hard to sit in it.
But it all came together.
Yes. It's really hard to sit still in it when you can't do anything about it.
And we're still sitting in it.
Yeah.
Like that's, but you're right. It has to be a choice. So when you're powerless, I know that for me, especially in divorce, and even before divorce, when, with my ex, when he was really into his alcohol, I wanted to control the situation. I set up all of these guards to make sure he never drove the kids, all of this thing. So when something like this comes, it's like, how do I control this? Like, what are my little steps? There's nothing. It has to be a conscious effort to just
this is the
let
result
it go
of
and
my
live in
trying
it.
to control.
Beth has a cast on her
because
wrist.
the city will only pick up the limbs if they're between the sidewalk and the street, and even though my yard is the size of a postage stamp, they wouldn't come, quote unquote, into my yard. So I was dragging some of the branches out and fell and fractured my wrist. So
It's like you prayed for patience.
I know. But I don't do that anymore. I just pray for
You learned that one early on.
and peace.
My friend's mom, when things are going badly and there's nothing you can do, my friend's mom calls it leaning into it. You just got to lean into it. And I like
Well,
that.
and
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and I tried to do that. Like, my refrigerator's spotless. Because I had to throw everything in it away.
Yeah.
So it wasn't cold. So it was a perfect opportunity to Windex it down and make sure it was all clean and that kind of thing. Good. My dog is going to doggy daycare, and she is not a dog person. So she's having to learn how to be with other dogs. There's little things. And I've spent more time with my kids. We've gone out to eat, and we've spent more of that table
been fun.
time.
Because you've been displaced. We're like, okay, well, like one night I was on my porch and y'all were walking, and y'all were like, "Do we need to walk you, Lauren?" Because I was like, "What's happening? What's happening?"
So we walked Lauren.
We need to walk Lauren. And then we went to dinner, and I don't just like
I've gotten to spend more time with neighbors. People. I've even spent more time with some of our other neighbors I don't really talk to as much. I sat on the porch across the street and watched the tree. Because there was a crane in my yard boogered
That
up my
dug up
yard
your
pretty
yard.
good, yeah, and the sidewalks. But that's a
You
problem
can
for
have
another
like a
day.
steep
Yeah.
slope.
Anyway, watch them bring the tree up over my house in pieces, and that was fun. I enjoyed getting to know those neighbors a little better than I do, but it has had to be. But I really haven't. I haven't had that come apart, because when I feel it coming, just have to turn around and say, okay, I'm thankful, I'm grateful. No one was home, my dog wasn't killed, and she wasn't electrocuted, she wasn't smushed by a tree.
That's amazing.
And she didn't get out of the fence, she waited on the porch for us. All of these things are amazing. None of my children were home. I wasn't home when it happened, which meant that if the tree had come further into the house, we would, no one was here for it to harm or terrify. It was just lots to be grateful for. And then we're still able to get my power back on eventually.
Yeah.
Well, I just, when I get like that, and even now, currently, like this morning during my devotion time, I just said, I can't deal with this. You're just going to have to take it.
Yes.
I can't think about it anymore. I cannot worry about it anymore. You just take it away from me, and I'm just going to do what I can do. I did read a whole book in like 2 days.
That's great.
I have stacks of books that I hadn't had time to read because I've been doing commissioned needlework stuff, and now with the cast on my right hand, I cannot do needlepoint. I was a crazy person when I realized I can't stitch. I'm moving my fingers now, and I can pick up things, but when I first got it, I couldn't do no pressure on my fingers or anything. So I've been very miserable, but I just thought, okay, I didn't feel well with this. I had pain, so I napped on my couch. I like life slowed down. So, and I needed that.
It did kind of feel like things slowed down this week.
It kind of felt like a COVID week to me, because
it did. Like
I was kind of stuck.
We weren't in the house watching television. There wasn't a whole lot. It was quiet in my home.
Yeah.
And it was, my daughter got to spend more time with one of her best friends. They're both going to school this next week. So they got to spend a lot more quality time together. You know what I mean? It just, I don't know.
So sometimes being without power, like
being powerless makes being
it
powerless.
makes you grateful, and it also makes you have to reassess and kind of center yourself.
But did you not find that we lived in the moment?
Yes.
A whole lot more this past week.
Yeah.
In the middle of the storm damage and without the power.
I was in the moment.
because we had to be.
Yeah.
And I think that was a gift, or at least it was to me.
It was to me too. I felt like, okay, it was a little more simple. I explained to my boss, I had no internet the whole week, and trying to do reports on the internet, which is how I get paid. I have to laugh. I had to explain, I'm going to try to use the jetpack as much as I can, which you're really only supposed to use when you're out in the field. But I had no internet.
Yeah.
So then I had to teach myself a more efficient way just to type with my left hand, and I was chicken pecking with my birdie finger. And so, and I could only do that. I'd write a report. Usually I just, fire them off one after another. I would write one report and have to go lay down and take a nap because it would hurt my arm so bad. And then I would go back after I was rested and do another report. So it was a whole different pace for me, and my day looked completely different doing this. So.
But you problem solved.
I did. And, really, once I slowed down and realized I have no control over this situation, I'm just going to have to go with the flow. When I let myself just go with the flow, I felt so much better about it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a nice little lesson for me to take time
and making the conscious choice to let go of the worry over the things we have no control over when we are powerless is a lesson I think I'm going to be learning into my 90s. But it's one that's very worth the effort.
Well, I think also it can kind of leak over into divorce and the situations, because in divorce, you or your ex might think you have a plan for the actual divorce document and things like that, and co-parenting and all that stuff. But when you go to mediation or you go to court, it doesn't always shake out that way. And then you have to, letting my child go to her dad's for the weekends when I knew he was not well. That was an act of faith. And I had to realize I have no power over what happens at his house. I cannot go rescue her. I cannot worry about if he's feeding her, if he's not feeding her, if he's,
Yeah, you can't control
You
the way
have,
the other
I have
parent
no
parents.
control, and that is a huge lesson that you have to learn. And I do realize that some of my friends have not, are not open to that lesson, or have not grasped that they actually have no control over the situation. They're still trying to control it, and they're very unhappy and miserable, and can't figure out why. Because they have not. They think, if I say this and I pack this amount of clothes, then this will happen. Once they get over there,
because really
they're in a whole different realm.
And in reality, the other parent's role is to, at the very least, provide the basic needs and keep them safe. And if that is happening, whether it's to the degree that you would prefer or not, that's it. You're done. There's nothing. Yeah. I mean, you can't. There's really you have no control over making the other parent the way you feel they should.
I expressed a concern that I had about my son to my therapist. That I had about a concern that I had about him being at his father's house, and she said, "Lauren, a judge would laugh about this. Like, I know that to you it's a big deal, but in the grand scheme of things, it isn't." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I really can't. There's nothing that I can do." So,
and that's hard as a mama bear mom.
Like, it is
you
hard.
Want to protect and you want the best for your kid, and when you don't feel like the people who are supposed to love your kid are stepping up and doing the same, it's really hard to let that go.
And the only thing you can do is control what you can control. I mean, and make the best of when they're with you, or trying to communicate as much as you can, or prepare them
for when it's different. Because some kids have a problem with change and sleeping in a different bed I had to make sure my child had something comforting, because she couldn't take her dog over there because his girlfriend had a dog, and so she slept with the dog since she got the dog since she was 5. So that was a whole nother. We have to be prepared, because your dog's not going to be there. What do you want to take instead? What kind of thing are you going to do at bedtime? Just talking it out with her so that she knew when it happened to her, she wasn't blindsided.
Right. My son has always had like a little stuffed animal that he goes back, that he slept with forever. So we just make sure that he has that.
And as they grow up, it gets a little better, because they can communicate and say and stand up for themselves, and they get a voice and say, "I want dinner," or "I haven't eaten. Did you realize we didn't have dinner or lunch," or whatever. So.
Well, listen, all right, so, and granted, I don't have to deal with all of this, but when I did, I struggled sort of with the opposite. My ex was, when he was in his alcoholism, which was pretty much the whole time, he did not ask the kids to come over. He did not ask to have them, and I struggled not trying to force that.
Yeah.
But it was a double-edged sword. Did I force it and he wasn't in a healthy place to have them, but they still got to see him? Or did I not force it and let him grow a relationship with them on his terms and in his time? And that's what I went with. I had to set a boundary because I couldn't manage his relationship with his children anymore. I had to let that go. But that was a really hard choice for me to make, was to allow him to parent or not parent in the way that he needed to when he, and that. I mean, but it still is hard because you want your kids long for a relationship with their father.
Yeah,
that's just the way it's always going to be. No matter what sort of father, whether they're fabulous or whether they're terrible, your child wants a relationship with them, and it's hard to not try and manage that in any way. But that's no longer our responsibility. No. We are no longer married to this person. We're no longer really parenting with this person.
Yeah.
We can only control and love our kid in our own way and in our own home.
Right.
It's a hard control issue to let go, though.
It is.
It is. So, no, I remember just feeling very powerless when my daughter texted me at 1 a.m. and said, "Help." That's it.
Oh my goodness. What do you do with that?
I jumped in my car and rode by, and when I rode by, it was quiet and dark, and I was like, so I texted back, "Are you okay?" And there was no answer. So I'm just like,
what, did you knock on the door or anything?
No, I
Because you
did call my
can't.
friend that was the police officer and said, this is what has happened. And he said, unless she reaches out to you, I can't. I mean, I have no grounds to go over there. So.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
Well,
it was
and
sitting in front of his house and there were no lights on.
Well, and that's the
So
hard
I figure
thing.
she like felt lonely or wanted help and just fell asleep.
And if you don't have the relationship with your ex to just call and say, hey, go check on our kid.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to trust that everything's okay. And I cannot imagine being in that place
you don't know. I wanted
trust.
I wanted to break the door down, but I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Powerlessness.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good thing, especially if you've, well, and I think we've all done it. You've all had to assume sort of the mother and the father role at certain times, and you had to be everything. It's very hard to give up that little piece of being everything and being the person that they count on to hand that little piece of power over and think. I mean, I just pray and just want
but
her
we
to be
don't.
okay.
But that's just it. We don't hand it over. It's taken. Like that's the
true.
whole point.
But
is that
you
we're powerless.
but you consciously have to make the decision to hand it over because otherwise you'll go
or
crazy.
to let it
Nuts,
go.
yeah.
Just
You'll
you
go
gotta quit
crazy.
trying to hold on
Yeah.
to it because you can't.
It's not yours to hold on to anymore.
And
But that's a hard thing to realize. It's a really hard thing, especially if you have an ex that has any kind of problems, alcoholism. You know, I dealt with all of that. I mean, you just.
Yeah, it's really. Yeah, being powerless is, but at the same time, it's that gift. It forces you to set those boundaries.
Mm-hmm. It does.
But because if you don't ever set the boundaries, you're right. You end up in that state like chaos,
Yes.
or anger, or just
Resentment.
anxiety and resentment.
anxiety is
And if you
bad
can
too.
set the boundaries, it's like you can rest in a place of peace. It's not perfect,
No.
but divorce was going to make it imperfect no matter what. I mean,
That's
we
true.
lost it was never going to be perfect, but we lost that.
And again, it's part of it too is like figuring out what you do have power over, like what you can control. Like,
Right.
I think about this all the time. There's certain aspects of my job that I have to do. Like I'm whatever my job requires of me, that's what I have to do. So if it conflicts with something that my child needs or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like I've got to figure that out. I don't really have control over that's what I do for a living. But when it's choosing something extra to say yes to above this other thing, well, I have control of that. I don't have to do that.
Right.
So that's been kind of something I'm leaning into lately.
Yeah, that's a great
Yes.
realization for you in your life.
It is.
But I think it's also, so on this side of divorce and being forced into this helplessness, this powerlessness, it has helped me over the past few years kind of set that, like decide what it is that's truly important to me in my life.
Priority list.
Priority list, and make sure that everything is sort of in line with that.
Yeah.
And refocus.
Well, you
on
have to
feeling
reevaluate.
powerless.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And not just once. Like
Right.
every time you have any
constantly.
kind of tweak to the continuum, you have to go
Yeah.
back and say, okay, this week, this month, what am I? What are my top 3 things?
Well,
that
Yeah.
and I
accomplish?
do yearly words,
Mhm.
yearly focus words.
Right.
And I try and write those in my calendar at the top of the calendar when I go to start planning. And each day, and just like, okay, does this fit in where I wanted my focus for this year?
Because you can move forward, but not towards your goal.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And I want to
And
always be moving forward toward my goal.
Right.
Sometimes I have not made the mark because, things like this week have happened to me. And I have to clear a tree and figure out about a fence and board my dogs and go without power and go without
Yeah.
water and blah, 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 blah. You have to it's a constant reassessment. But I do that like you do. I write it at the top of my calendar along with how much more I owe on my mortgage.
Oh, see, I'm too
'Cause I'm
scarlet for
working-
that. That's a
I'm
problem
working-
for another day.
Yeah, I'm working on paying that off, and so that when I have the amount at the top, it kind of is like, okay, a reminder. This is what we're working on. So it's kind of a nice little thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say this. I was working on gratitude this week too because, I have a lot to be grateful for, even in the midst of the craziness at my house. I did have a friend that happens to own a kennel that I called on Sunday night and said, help me. I have to travel for work. I have to go to work and I have no fence and I have these 2 dogs that cannot stay inside all day and my child's at school all day. And she said, I'll meet you up there in 15 minutes. And I called my brother and said, this is what's going on. And he said, did you call the electrician? Did you call? I was, I got it all lined up. It's just those, I'm very grateful for all the people that shared information, shared services, it's just.
No, it was great.
It was really
it was kind of magic the way.
Yeah, it was. Everything.
And I have to say, especially my cousin that doesn't live here and didn't grow up in a small town. She grew up in a big. I said, this is the beauty of a small town. I had 3 people that I could call right off the bat that I had a personal relationship with that had the goods and services that I needed.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you call the electrician at 10 o'clock on Sunday night and he shows up at your house at 7:30.
Yeah.
Shout out to Perry Electric.
Yeah.
Anyway,
double shout out.
It's like, okay, people can bash a small town or bash Alabama in general, all my cousins. But let me tell you, this community is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And so I've been very grateful for all the help I've gotten and, all the people that were like, we're thinking about you and what do you need and can we send this over and do you have this and
well, I had
nice.
tons of people who said, please come stay with us. And I didn't want to.
I said that and you
I know.
Yeah.
I wanted to stay in my house.
You didn't want to.
I didn't. I wanted to stay in my comfy bed. And I have too many animals that needed, feeding and things. I mean, and also, by the time I would stop long enough to be like, okay, let's pack a bag, I was walking around with a stinking lantern in my hand.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to go figure out how to pack a bag in the dark. I'm just going to stay here.
Yeah, so I've been very grateful the tree that was leaning toward my house turned and twisted in the wind and went across the back of my house because if it had come down, Mary Burns and my daughter's bed and my bed line up, we would have been crushed.
That's what the tree that fell.
We would have been crushed.
The tree that fell the tree that fell on your addition. If it had come my way and it had been when I was in bed, there's no way it would have missed me.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So just small miracles. Also, the trees that fell around my daughter's car. Nothing fell on her car.
Oh, that's crazy.
Then I was thinking she had just started parking in the front of my house. She usually parks on my driveway exactly where the tree fell.
So little things.
Yeah.
Just little things. I'm very grateful for all the little things.
I've read several articles about how when you focus on gratitude, it changes your outlook on life. Like it really sort of makes you happier and more peaceful and more calm. So I think that's a really good thing.
It's glasses half full.
Yeah.
It's a glasses half full mentality because it could be, I had some things happen with my son this week and I was talking to my boyfriend about it and he was listening and he doesn't have kids and I got through it and I was like at the end of it I was like, I'm saying this out loud and realizing it could be a whole lot worse. Like a lot worse. So,
yeah.
So I think about that a lot too. Like we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
No, I had a good week because it was nice to be off work this week between semesters so that because I kind of felt all week like I was holding the fort down.
You were holding
I was holding the fort down.
You were the mama.
Yeah.
Now what do you need?
I'm
going to Target.
When do the tree guys show up?
Hey Lauren, look out your window. Is there still a tree between our houses?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, and on top of that, I'm grateful for every work person that showed up at my house. Also took extra pictures as they did their job. So now I have a huge file for the insurance company.
They were quick, man. When I called to get a fence quote, the fence company that I called couldn't do it because they were slammed, and they immediately gave me a recommendation of somebody who showed up at our house in an hour.
Yeah.
And that was just crazy to me. So anyway, I don't know. The thing is, you know, my godmother, I'm not gonna say her name, always says it's a Mr. Rogers quote, and it's look for the helpers.
Yeah,
There will always be people helping, and I have thought about that all week this week. I got tears in my eyes. That's how it has felt.
I had helpers show
There's
up.
people helping. Yeah.
And
But there have been
my
so
brother
many
and
helpers.
sister-in-law
Yeah.
brought me dinner, which turned into
Yeah.
lunch because they brought me so much food. So then I didn't even have to pack lunch for my daughter or anything. And I mean, I didn't know if the stuff in my refrigerator was good because the power had been out X amount of hours.
Oh, I gave
but-
up on all mine and threw it out.
So, well, I'm about to do some of it because I think it's not good. But anyway, I just think this week I have been grateful. I've surrendered a lot of my power because the big light bulb went off. You don't really have any power in this situation.
And then at the end of the day, you know, sometimes we choose our games, and sometimes we have the cards that we're dealt, you know.
That's true.
And you just have to how you choose to play those cards, to deal them, whatever. That's the measure of your stick-to-itiveness, your grit, your
Yeah.
that's what determines
Well, I had this moment of craziness before I broke my wrist, and my daughter took a video of me because she was looking through the house, and I kept looking at the tree, and this is before I gave up my power. I kept looking at the tree and sort of just grumbling like, I cannot. It's so huge. It was overwhelming just from the massive size. So I put on my tennis shoes and I went outside and acted like I was 5, and I climbed on the trunk and up the branches and had my child take a picture of me doing the whole Rocky Balboa thing. And I was like, then I felt good. Then I was calm. It's like, see, I can still climb a tree at my old age, and I just made a little game of it, and then I was like, okay, I can now give up my power and just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to do that first, y'all.
Oh, that's so funny.
So.
I was a little too afraid to do that. I just kind of was like, oh, look, there's
Well,
trees.
Those weren't real climbable. They didn't have any.
But we also had power lines down
I mean,
all the
we
way
could have done
across all that
we could have
mess.
done a balance beam situation.
Oh, we
but
could have. Yeah, but then, but it was resting on the neighbor's garage, so that wouldn't have been a good idea either.
Yeah.
It's all right.
So, my first, this is a funny conversation because I had just barely seen, because I had so much foliage everywhere, I couldn't even see out my porch. It was like a squirrel sanctuary. Literally, we watched the squirrels all week. So I had told the insurance person, oh yeah, I don't think there's a limb on my roof. So the next day I walked around and came in the side portion, and I was like, OMG. Not only was there one limb on there, it was a whole third of the tree resting on top of it. And I had said, I think it just, there's a little
just hit the
plywood up
backyard.
there. Y'all, it's like 4 feet of roof. 4 to 5 feet of roof is gone. So everything.
not a
I
limb
went,
up there.
I went to go
Right,
put
there
my
you
makeup
go.
on the first night. First morning. I went to go put my makeup on in the bathroom, and the tree was all the way across my house and hanging down my 2nd-story bathroom window, and I couldn't see a thing. I put my makeup on in the car all week. I was like, I had no idea it was that. I didn't realize. It was all the way across my house and across over my neighbor's house.
I look like a really bad performer all week because I put on my makeup with my left hand. Try to do eyeliner and mascara with your left hand, girls. It's real fun. At least I didn't poke my eye out. So
It's almost like the universe is telling Beth to slow down.
You think? Left-handed mascara. I thought, well, there's a first. Nothing I would have ever come up with, and I come up with some crazy ideas. But guess
so
what?
funny.
I can actually draw a straight line.
That's
There
good.
you go. It's good to know. That's good to know. You just never know when.
Can you write well with your left hand yet?
It looks like my son's cursive writing, which they told him in high school, just stop, just print everything. But the funniest thing was, and I wish I had like a model body. I probably would have taken a YouTube of it. Pulling up your underwear with your left hand, girls. Not good. Not in the Alabama humidity. Not good. Not pretty.
So funny.
I've had to learn to do a lot of things with my left hand.
Well, it has definitely been an adventure this week.
It
Yes,
has.
Hasn't it?
It has.
Here, I will say cheers to that because I usually like a good adventure. This one was like not of my choosing, but it turned out well. It turned out well.
All right, so at the tail end of this week, what is it that you guys are planning to do to live a life that you love going into this next week?
Wait. Oh, I'm gonna go to Third Friday on Friday night.
Are you?
With my kiddo?
It's
And
back
then,
on?
They're
Yes.
having it this month, so I'm gonna take him to that with some girlfriends, and then on Saturday night, we're having a cast party for the show that I just directed. So.
Oh, good.
Fun.
And so yeah, it's good. Just little
Oh, and
things.
Third Friday is a celebration that our town has every third Friday over the summer months. Just to have stuff to do.
Fun.
I also start. My classes don't start for a week, but I start back to school tomorrow with like planning, and I'm ready to get into fall. Fall is my favorite
My
like
too.
time of year. Not just weather wise and like holiday wise, but like it's my favorite time of year to be a teacher because everything is new and it's
That's true.
everybody's
Yeah.
refreshed and we've got really fun shows happening. So
My favorite line. Bouquets of sharpened pencils.
A what?
Bouquets of sharpened
Bouquets
pencils.
of sharpened
I
pencils.
love
Where did that come
Is it
from?
from
That's
You've Got
from,
Mail?
yes.
Isn't it
From what?
from the movie You've Got Mail?
Oh,
But with
bouquets of
and
sharpened
he brings her one when
Yeah,
she's sick.
it's
He brings her
hilarious.
I love that movie.
Hilarious. I love that. So,
That's fun.
So anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to that and that routine. I'm ready for it.
Well, good.
What about you?
We're celebrating my daughter's 19th birthday today. Though it's not her birthday, we're going to celebrate it because she goes back to school next Friday. And then next weekend, I'm going to the beach to celebrate my sister and my niece's birthday. They share the same day birthday by the grace of God, not by planning. And so we're going to go into the beach for the weekend to hang out with them. So I'm excited. That'll be fun. So I'll pack my daughter off and cry all the way to the beach, I guess. No, not really, because she's really excited about going to school and I'm happy for her, but that's it.
well, I'm about to get some frames out and have my daughter put them together and put my needlepoint on a frame.
You're going to figure out how to needlepoint with that cast.
I am. And, well, you can punch and poke. There's a whole method. I usually sew my 10th stitch in with my right hand and hold the canvas with my left. But most very pure needlepointers put everything on a frame and then clamp it to a surface. And then you can punch and poke and you can stitch with both hands. That's what I'm going to do. And then I walked through my house this morning and thought, I bet I could paint with my left hand.
Oh.
I have a canvas on my easel.
You could.
Well, an abstract. Surely I can paint an abstract with my left.
Yes.
That's exciting.
I thought that was good.
I vote yes. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I
And
can't,
then
I
you
can't
can
think
chop
about
this out, but
paint right
I'm
now.
thinking about taking a lever. Just kidding.
I'm sorry, I just
Just
clutched,
kidding,
I
audience.
just
I
clutched
just
my
got
pearls.
Clutch your
Oh.
pearls.
Clutched our pearls
Look,
on
she
that.
said-
I just thought
Lava.
I would put that in there as well.
And for the wild card this weekend,
After the while, not for the faint of heart. But anyway, no, I'm kidding.
It's okay.
that's all right.
The beach or anything. Well, I'll figure out.
Well, I
something.
can't even think about painting because I don't know. I'm afraid that I'm about to have to pack up the studio.
Yeah.
You know,
'Cause
because I can't. Because
But
they're
you
gonna have
know,
to rip the wall out.
You're
It's
blessed. You could move it out here.
Yeah.
You really could move it into after the birthday celebration.
Okay, you're stressing me out a little bit.
or-
Let's
After
figure
the
it out.
birthday
Even
celebration, you
porch.
could move it here.
You could do it you could do one piece at a time on the porch unless
But
you
it's,
need it.
Okay.
if it's not too humid,
Yeah.
because that paint will dry like. You'll
We
have to
really
spritz
should
it.
move it to the upstairs den.
Oh, that's a lot of work.
I'm
Going
gonna
up the
cross my
stairs. You
fingers
could just
that
walk-
fall weather kicks in early this year.
Oh, I
It'll
hope
be
so.
real
I
nice.
love
Be
fall
real
weather.
nice.
All
I've
right.
gotten the itch to bake too.
Yeah, I made banana bread last week, and I was like, "Who am I?" Oh, I've cooked.
You've
No, I
cooked.
have not eaten out except with you, on Friday night.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten out like all week. Today when I got home, I was like,
cooking.
I'm not spending money on food. What do I have here? I was like eggs, fresh tomatoes from the farmer's market, and cheese. And I tried to make an omelet. It was not successful, so I called it an omelette. and it was great.
Dry your tomatoes and put a little salt on them.
Oh my gosh, they were so good.
Before
Yesterday,
you add them in.
well, I hadn't been to the farmer's market all summer. And yesterday I was like, I'm getting some tomatoes today. And I went and got them and I thought, all I want in life is a tomato sandwich. That's what
the
I
best.
want. And I got home and the bread was expired.
Well, I'm afraid
So I
my
put it-
mayo's expired.
I put it on a tortilla.
Well, I did buy some more
It was
today.
not the same, but oh man,
on a
so
tortilla?
good. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's just not quite the same as.
You could do that cheese and garlic and tomatoes and throw it in and roast it for about 20 minutes.
Which is
And
like
then-
shredded cheese and garlic and tomatoes?
No, like Bourgeon or
Oh,
mozzarella or some
I have
block of cheese.
I have
If you
a
ever-
mozzarella thingy.
Yeah,
at my
put that
house.
in there, melt it, and then stir it up. Squeeze the garlic out
Uh-huh.
because it roasts to a paste, and then do some noodles. Put it in there. Put some
Sounds
extra
wonderful.
cheese on
That
it.
sounds so good. Sounds amazing.
I might do that later.
All right, free recipe, y'all.
There you
There
go.
you go. Easy free recipe.
All right,
Okay.
y'all ready?
Yes.
Thank
Have
y'all.
a great
Cheers,
week.
pals. Yeah, have a
Here's
good
for a
week.
much
Here's
better
for a
week.
much better week.
And power.
A little bit of power.
With power. Let's keep the power, ladies.
Keep the power.
Thank y'all for joining us for Champagne Sunday.
See you next week,
See
girls.
you next
week. Yeah, cheers.
Have a good week.
Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.